Okay, hey guys, so just like I mentioned at the end of the other video, I was cutting this in half so it wasn't super long. I'm going to start here. This is part 2 of your Chapter 2 test, starting with questions 13 all the way to the end of 20. So this is the back page of your test. Right, let's just jump in. So number 13 and 14 have the same directions. Graph the linear equation. Not too bad. So 13, we have negative 2x plus 4y equals 12, where there are different ways you can solve and graph these equations. One way is to rewrite into slope-intercept into y equals mx plus b. The second method is to use X and Y-intercepts, which I mentioned in class that especially when you have something that's in standard form, that's what this is in, standard form, that's probably easiest to use your intercepts. So I'm actually going to do that on 13 here. To find my intercepts, so my x-intercept means plug in 0 for y. Finding my y-intercept is plugging in 0 for x, which I'll write down in just a minute. So let's just find the x-intercept. Starting with my equation, I have negative 2x plus 4y equals 12. Finding the x, I'm going to plug in 0 for y, so I have negative 2x plus 4 times 0 equals 12. Anything times 0 is 0. This really kind of goes away. Negative 2x plus 0 equals 12. Gives me negative 2x equals 12. Getting x by itself, I'm doing secret operation of multiplication. Remember, you're divided by everything attached to x, which is negative 2. So this tells me my x-intercept is negative 6. That's one point I can go plot right now on my graph. The x-intercept means there's no y. The y value is 0. It's really the point negative 6, 0. So my graph, that means I run left 6, which is about right here, and I'm not flying up anywhere. I stop, and I draw a point. Now the y-intercept, I'm going to scroll down here, squiggle, y-intercept is plugging in 0 for x. I'm going to do that. Again, I'm just going to rewrite the problem. Negative 2x plus 4y equals 12. Plugging in 0 for your x, I have negative 2 times 0 plus 4y equals 12. Anything times 0 is 0, so I have 0 plus 4y equals 12. This gives me 0 plus 4y, it's just 4y equals 12. I'm doing secret operation of multiplication. I can divide everything by 4. This tells me my y-intercept is a positive 3. So if I go back up here, that means I'm really plotting the point 0, 3. So going up further to my graph, I'm going to go find 0, 3. That means I'm not running anywhere on my x, I just fly up to 3. I stop and I draw a point. And I'm going to use my ruler. Let's go green. And we're just going to connect our 2 points as best as we can. So, roughly, that's what your graph should look like. Moving on to question 14. You can also use either of these options, option 1 or option 2. So this is still standard form, so you can definitely still find the x and y intercepts. But I also noticing that 2x plus y equals negative 4. That doesn't look too hard to write into slope-intercept. I could actually easily get my y by itself. So instead of going through all that work, plugging in 0, I'm actually going to go option 1 right now. I'm actually going to rewrite this into slope-intercept, because it takes one step. My other ones would take me a lot more steps, and I don't want to waste my time. My time's precious. So I have 2x plus y equals negative 4. If I want to rewrite this into slope-intercept, that means get y by itself. And to do that, I'm subtracting 2x. There's a secret plus sign here on both sides. So this gives me the equation negative 2x minus 4. And I know how to graph that when it's in slope-intercept. I can start at my y-intercept, I plot that, and then I use my slope to draw another point. So I'm just going to do that. My y-intercept is at negative 4 y-intercept. So I'm going to go find out on my graph. That means I'm not running on my x. I just fall down to -4 and I stop. And I draw a point. My slope here is -2, or that's the same thing as -2/1. Well, if it's negative, that means I fall 2 boxes and I run right 1 box. But I want more than just 2 points. So I can also reverse that. If I start back here at -4, reversing it means fly up 2, run to the left 1, and you stop and you draw a point. Then you do your best to just connect your points. So it looks something like that. There you go. And that only took me 1 step to get into something I can graph. Okay, let's move on. You'll notice I skipped 15. That's because remember I had you cross that out. We weren't going to deal with that. So we're jumping into 16 and 17. It says write an equation in slope-intercept form of a line that passes through the given point. So slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. So the first step, find your slope. I have 2 points here, so I'm actually going to use my formula for slope, where I have m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Doesn't matter which one you label, it's x1, y1, and x2, y2. I'm just going to go left to right. So 0, 1 is my first point, 2, 4 is my second. If I just plug that in, this, y1, this gives me 4 minus 1 over 2 minus 0. 4 minus 1 is 3. 2 minus 0 is 2. So this tells me my slope of my equation. So I'm actually going to start filling this in. Y equals, trying to get mx. I know my m, that's 3/2 x. And I need to find my b. Well, to find your b, you pick one of these points. It doesn't matter, 0, 1, or 2, 4. You'll get the same answer. And you plug it into your equation. And we actually have a plus b here. And we're going to solve for b. So I'm actually going to pick the easiest point. So if there's a point that has 0 in it, I recommend you choose that because it makes your multiplication and addition very, very nice. So I'm going to start by rewriting y equals 3/2 x plus b. I'm going to solve for b. So I'm going to plug in the point 0, 1. That means substituting 0 for your x value, right, and 1 for your y. So I have 1 equals 3/2 times 0 plus b. Well, anything times 0 is 0. So I have 1 equals 0 plus b. So this tells me my b is 1. So my final answer is y equals, the slope I came up with in that first step was 3/2 x. My b is positive 1. So my equation is y equals 3/2 x plus 1. Same idea for 17 and again for 18 and 19. First thing is finding your slope. Doesn't matter which one you label as x1, y1 and x2, y2. My equation is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Plugging in our numbers here, I have x2 is 4 minus x1 of 1 over x2 is 0 minus, negatives, careful, x1 is -3. Simplifying what I can here. 0 minus -3 will be these two turn to a positive. So it's really 0 plus 3 is the problem. 4 minus 1, that's 3, over 0 plus 3 is 3. 3 over 3 simplifies to 1. So my slope is 1. We're going to plug that into y equals mx plus b. So I really have y equals 1x, or just x, plus b. Again, it doesn't matter which point you plug in to find your b. I, again, recommend easy points. So if you have a point that has a 0 in it, choose that. If you don't, just choose a nice-looking point. You'll get the same answer either way. Oops, too far. So I'm actually going to choose this point 0.04. That means I'm replacing y or substituting y for that y value of 4 equals 1x, so that's 1 times 0, the x value here, plus b. 1 times 0, 0, plus b equals 4. 0 plus b is, oops, getting too far. 0 plus b is b, so this tells me my y-intercept is 4. Plugging it into this missing variable here, we have y equals 1x plus 4, but really is the same thing as y equals x plus 4. Either perfectly acceptable answers. Okay, let's keep on trucking here. 18 and 19 are the same type of problems as 16 and 17, where we have to write an equation in slope-intercept form of the line that passes through these points. So I'm going to start by finding my slope first by writing my formula. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Doesn't matter which one you label. So I have x1 comma y1, x2 comma y2. I'm just going to plug it in. y2 is negative 3 minus y1 is 7 over x2 is 2 minus x1 is negative 3. Please, please, please be careful with your negatives. On the bottom, these two negatives turn to addition. So really I have the problem 2 plus 3 in my denominator and negative 3 minus 7 in the numerator. This simplifies to negative 3 minus 7. That's negative 10, getting more negative. 2 plus 3, 5. Negative 10 over 5 simplifies to negative 2. So my slope is negative 2. Filling that in, y equals negative 2x plus b. We have to find b. So let's just scroll up. Let's look at our points. Which one looks nicer, negative 3, 7 or 2, negative 3? Well, I like smaller numbers, so I'm actually going to choose this point, this 2, negative 3, and I'm going to plug it in. So I'm just going to rewrite it so I don't forget. 2, negative 3. I'm going to say plug in. This means I'm substituting or replacing y with this y value, and substituting x or replacing the x with this x value. So I have negative 3 equals negative 2 times x value 2 plus b. Negative 2 times negative 2 is negative 4 plus b. Haven't done anything with negative 3, rewriting it. Getting b by itself means I'm moving negative 4. To do that, I'm undoing that. Little minus sign here with an addition sign. Adding 4 to both sides. This tells me that negative 3 plus 4 is 1, or b equals 1. Final equation, y equals negative 2x. Instead of writing b, we're going to write that number plus 1. Almost done, guys. Woo! Okay, 19. Let me do a little scrolling. Same thing. Starting with finding my slope. Write my formula, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Doesn't matter which point you label as your first one, as long as you're consistent. I just like to go left to right, because that's how I read. That's how you should read, too. Plugging in our values, y2 is 10 minus y1 is 8 over x2 is negative 2 minus x1 is 2. Be careful on the denominator with these negatives here. Here, for number 19, we have 10 minus 2, or excuse me, 10 minus 8 is 2. Ooh. Negative 2 minus 2, that's getting more negative, so I have negative. Negative 2 minus 2, that's negative 4. But simplify, 2 over negative 4 is the same thing as negative 1 half. That is my slope. Filling in what I can, and the slope y equals mx plus b. Y equals negative 1 half x plus b. Again, it does not matter which point you choose. Let's see here. I have 2 8s and I have negative 2 10. They're pretty similar. I know that sometimes I can make mistakes and lose my negative signs. So I'm actually going to choose this 0.28. So I'm going to write that down here. Plug in. You could have chosen the other one and you'd still get the same answer. I'm just going to pick plug in 2, 8. Whoops. So that means I'm replacing y with 8, replacing x with 2. So that has 8 equals negative 1/2 times 2 plus b. When I'm working with fractions, I make everything a fraction. So 2 becomes a fraction by putting it over 1. You can multiply tops or multiply bottoms or cross simplify or reduce. It's my favorite. These 2's can simplify down to 1. So really it's negative 1 times 1, which is negative 1, and 1 times 1, which is 1, plus b. Negative 1 over 1 is the same thing as just negative 1, plus b. Haven't done anything with 8, so I'm just going to keep rewriting it. Now to get b by itself, I have to move minus 1. To do that, I'm undoing this minus sign with an addition sign, so I add 1 to both sides. This gives me b equals 8 plus 1 is 9. Final answer, y equals, our slope was negative 1/2 x plus 9. These are probably the toughest problems I see a lot of mistakes on your test. At this point, it's not remembering to plug in points and to rewrite your equation. Okay, guys, your last problem. Woo! Just about done. Okay, guys, let's finish this up. So, 20 says the graph shows the height, y, in feet, that sounds important, of a kite x seconds after you start letting out the string. Okay. A. Find and interpret the slope of the graph. So I guess that means this graph. Yep. B. Write an equation of the line of the graph. Okay, I can do that. C. What is the height of the kite after 15 seconds? Sounds like I might need to use my answer in B for that one. D. Interpret means explain the y-intercept of the graph. Okay, let's just start. So find and interpret. I missed that one. Interpret, explain the slope of the graph. Well, you can use a formula. You can draw your triangle. I'll show you both. Drawing my triangle, when I read left to right, my line is going up, which means it's positive. So if I draw a triangle, I'm rising from the bottom point and running to the top point. I rise 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes, and I run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. So first of all, slope equals 4 over 5. If I'm going to do my work over here, if you use the equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Doesn't matter which one's which. It's going to go bottom to top. x1, y1, x2, y2. This gives me 8 minus 4 over 5 minus 0. 8 minus 4 is 4. 5 minus 0 is 5. Works out the same way. Okay, interpreting the slope is putting it into words and explaining in the real world based off of this problem. What does it mean? Well, slope is technically y over x, which is rise over run, equals slope. In our problem, our y is talking about feet. Our x, or the run, is talking about seconds. And if it's a kite, our kite is going up. And I also know that not just because of the graph and because of what I know about kites, but slope is positive. Positive means I'm going up. So when I'm explaining or interpreting, this is really saying that my kite, or my slope, here is representing the fact that kite rises 4 feet, because y is 4, and my y value here, my y is 4, and the units are feet, rises 4 feet for every, let's see, my x is 5, so every 5, what are the units there? Oh, seconds. It's rising 4 feet for every 5 seconds. That's what it means by interpret. Explain, please. Okay, let's see here. B. Write an equation of the line of the graph. Okay, well, I like y equals mx plus b because that's simple. We use that all the time. It's one of the most common equations that we use. Well, I already know my m, and I just need to find my b. That doesn't sound too bad. So I'm going to actually start with y equals, my slope is 4/5 x. B represents the y-intercept. Well, you know what's awesome? On our graph, it's showing my y-intercept. One of my points is the y-intercept. It's right here. It's 4. So I actually have no work to do. I can just say y equals 4/5 x plus 4. That's it. Nothing too bad. There's no work there. You could go through the process that we just finished with questions 16 through 19, and you'd still get this equation. But if I have this graph and it already tells me what y-intercept, let's not make more work for ourselves. C says, what is the height of the kite after 15 seconds? Well, this means I have to actually take this number 15 and I'm plugging it into my equation. Seconds represents the x values, and I got that just from the problem because up here it says x seconds. So that means I'm plugging 15 in for x. So I'm actually going to run out of room. So I'm actually going to do this little arrow. I'm going to do it under my graph. And I'm going to rewrite the problem. We have y equals 4/5 x plus 4. Well, if 15 is my seconds, that means I'm plugging in 15 for x. I have y equals 4/5 times 15 plus 4. But I always like, if I have fractions, I like to make everything a fraction. So I'm going to put 15 over 1. And now we can do a lot of, you can either multiply tops and multiply bottoms or cross simplify, which is my favorite. 5 and 15 actually can go, I can divide out 5 from that. When I divide 5 by 5, I get a 1. When I divide 15 by 5, I get 3. So I have 4 times 3, which is 12. 1 times 1 is 1, plus 4. Well, 12 divided by 1, that's the same thing as 12 plus 4. So I have y equals 16, or 16 feet. I'm going to go over my problem. A lot of you made this mistake, and it really came one from if you made a mistake with your multiplying and dividing here. That was one mistake. Another mistake that I saw was we plugged in 15 for y instead of for x, and you have to be careful. In the problem, it tells you these units. Match up the units with what the variable is in the problem. So C, we have the height of the kite after 15 seconds is 16 feet. Very nice. D, last problem of your test. Interpret, which means explain the y-intercept of the graph. Okay, well, my y-intercept is 4. I learned that in B. My y-intercept is 4. Y-intercept also means starting value. It's another key word for it, starting value. But because I'm talking about a kite, this is saying my y-intercept is, when I first let my string out of my kite, the height is at 4 feet. The height of the kite is 4 feet as I start letting out the string here. So I'm going to say when I first let out the string, the height of the kite is 4 feet. That's where it starts. When I let the string out, my kite is only about 4 feet above the ground. That's before the wind starts taking it and we run, whatever happens when we're playing with our kite. That's where it started. Okay, well, we are done with your Chapter 2 test. Yay, because I am thirsty. So, if there's anything that you get stuck on, please come see me for help in 7th period. Use this as a resource and schedule time to retake.